everyone, in this video we are going to determine the x-intercept and the y-intercept both graphically and analytically. So this is the definition for x-intercept and y-intercept. So an x-intercept is a point where the line crosses the x-axis, and this can be solved analytically by setting the y equal to 0 and solving for x. Well, the y-intercept is a point where the line crosses the y-axis and can be solved by setting the x equal to 0 and solving for y. Let's have the first example here. So we're given the graph and we need to determine what is the x-intercept and what's the y-intercept. Again, x-intercept, where does it touch on the x-axis? So in this picture that we have here, this is our x-intercept. So I can label this as our x-intercept. So that's the x-intercept right there. So if we are going to find the coordinate for this, this would be at 4 and our y is 0. So the point 4, 0 for this graph is our x-intercept. Now if we want to determine the y-intercept, we're going to go to the y-axis and figure out where does the line cross on the y-axis. So it's crossing on this point right here. And again, we can label this as our y-intercept. So I'm going to label that as y-intercept right there. And so if we want to determine the coordinate for that point, and that would be 0, our x is 0, and -2. So this is our x-intercept, which correspond to this point right here. And this is our y-intercept, which corresponds to this point right there. Okay, now at this time, we're going to have problems where we're not given a graph, but instead we are given an equation. Again, the rule in order that we can find the x-intercept and the y-intercept is in order that we can solve for the x-intercept. So let's solve for the x-intercept first. So I'm going to show you the work here. That's x-intercept. In order that we can solve for x-intercept, I'm going to write the equation first. So that is y equals -2x plus 8. In order that we can solve for the x-intercept, we set y equals 0 because we're solving for the x-intercept. So solving for the x-intercept, you set y equals 0. So in here, we can go ahead and plug the 0 into the y. So I can go ahead and say 0 is equal to -2x plus 8. And then we're going to solve for x. So in this problem right here, we are going to subtract 8 from both sides. So subtract 8. I'm going to subtract 8 over here so we can cross the 8 out. So we can cross this out. So we have -2x is equal to -8. And then we are going to, because we want to solve for x, so we're going to divide both sides by -2, divide this by -2 so we can cross the -2 out. So we're left with x is equal to +4. So pretty much we already have a value for x and y. So then we can go ahead and say that our x-intercept as a point is 4. That's the value of the x, and the value of the y that we set at the beginning is 0. So our point or the x-intercept is located at 4, 0. Now let's have the y-intercept. So to solve for the y-intercept, we do the opposite. So I'm going to show the work over here. This is for the y-intercept. In solving for the x-intercept, we are setting I'm going to write the equation here first, so that's -2x plus 8. In solving for the x-intercept, we set y equals 0. In solving for the y-intercept, we set x equals 0. So set x equals to 0, and that we have to plug this 0 into the x. So the problem would come out to be y equals -2 parentheses plus 8. Again, we plug the 0 into the x. I'm going to put 0 right there. So we are left with y equals, this is a 0. We don't have to write that. So that would be, we can go ahead and show that's 0 plus 8. So then our y is actually 0 plus 8 is just 8. So then the coordinate for the y-intercept would be, first we write the x. So our x is 0. So I'm going to write 0 right here. And our y that we solved here is 8. out. And so this is our y-intercept. So this is the point of this is the point where we can tell that that's the y-intercept right there at this point. On the right side, you will see the graph version for this problem. You can tell that if we graph y equals negative 2x plus 8, these two here, this 4, 0, and the 0, 8 are the first, this is the x-intercept, and this is the y-intercept in the graph. At this time, I would encourage you to pause this video and try this problem out on your own, and when you're done, unpause it and check your answer. Okay, so we go over the problem here. First, we are going to solve for the x-intercept first. So I'm gonna show the work for the x-intercept on this side. So again, the equation right there is 3x minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. And so to solve for the x-intercept, we set y equals 0. So then from here, we go ahead and plug the 0 into the y. So our equation would come out 3x minus 2 parentheses minus 5 equals 0. Again, we put in the 0 to the y. So that's 0 right there. So we get 3x minus 0 minus 5 equals 0. So this comes out 3x minus 5 equals 0. We want to solve for x, so that's going to be a plus 5 and plus 5 from both sides. So we can cross the 5 out, so we're left with 3x equals 5. And so we can solve for x by dividing both sides by 3, divide this by 3. So then we are left with x is equal to 5/3. So this is the value of x when we set y equals to 0. So then we can go ahead and say that the coordinate of the x-intercept for this graph right there, for this line, is, we start with the x first. So the x is 5/3. So I'm going to write 5/3 here. And then the y that we set at the beginning is 0. So we put the 0 there, and this is our x-intercept. Did you get the same answer as this? Good. Perfect. We move on to the y-intercept. So to solve for the y-intercept, it's pretty much the same thing as what we did over here. So that's going to be y-intercept here. So I'm going to show the work for this. So that would be 3x minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. To solve for the y-intercept, we are going to set x equals 0. So set x equals 0. So then we go ahead and plug the 0 into the x. So that would be 3 parentheses minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. And we put in the 0 here. So 3 times 0 is 0. Minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. We want to solve for y. So then we go ahead and add 5 from both sides plus 5. So then we can cross the 5 out. So we're left with negative 2y equals positive 5. We divide both sides by negative 2 so we can solve for y, or we can have y by itself. So divide by negative 2. So then we're left with y equals negative 5/2. So then we can go ahead and say that the coordinate for the y-intercept would be, we start writing the x that we set up at the beginning, which is 0. So I'm going to write 0 over here. And then the y value that we solved here is negative 5/2. So this is our y-intercept. On the left side, you will see the graph of the line 3x minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. And if we look at the graph, we can see that the line is crossing on the x-axis at 530, or pretty much like if we round it off, it's crossing at 1.670, and it's crossing the y-axis at 0, negative 5/2, or pretty much like 0 and negative 2.5 if we change that to decimal. That's it. Did you get the same answers as this? Good. Perfect. If you find this video helpful, hit like and subscribe for more math videos. See ya!